Hi everyone, welcome to Code Kamkaj YouTube channel. I hope everybody are doing good. Today's video will be discussing about how to install Airflow into our Windows machine. So we'll discuss what all commands we would like to use and to install Airflow on Windows machine. And for information, so Airflow has not compatibility designed for Windows machine. It is designed for Unix operating systems such as Linux and Mac OS. But yeah, we can take advantage of Windows subsystem Linux and we'll install it. So stay tuned till this video. We'll discuss a lot more about in an easy way how we can install Airflow on Windows. And if you're new to this channel, I request you to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel and share to your fans and family members who are willing to learn the new technologies and machine learning and upcoming technologies. So yeah, now the first thing we should currently we are going to install Airflow on Windows machine. So for that we will have to initiate WSL Windows Subsystem Linux. So I have already installed it and I'm using this Windows machine. So for that I'll go and search with the Ubuntu. So I'll open the Windows subsystem Linux. So here the Ubuntu machine. So if you don't know how to install it and if you don't know how to create a Windows subsystem Linux, I'll add a documentation for this, how we can install WSL on Windows and how can you utilize the all Linux operating system environment. So do not worry about it if you are new to WSL or if you don't know WSL, or if you know Windows subsystem Linux, so you can follow up along with me. So I have initiated and now it is initiated. I'll update my system or else I'll go with the documentation. So yeah, it's saying that create a virtual environment, install Airflow, initiate the database, or what all the other commands that I have brought. So first, once you have jump into Windows subsystem Linux, so you should be converted as a root user. For that, I'll give a sudo -s is the command, and I'll give my password for this to become a root user. Now I become a root user. I'll create my screen. I'll update my system to apt update. So my system is getting updated, which is pulling all the latest dependencies from my remote of Ubuntu. I cleared the screen now. As per the documentation, is saying that set up a virtual environment. So here, if you see that create a virtual environment with this command, you can utilize it, and your virtual environment name would be my env. I'll copy this command and I'll paste on my WSL. Now it is getting created. Now it has created. Now it's time to activate it. So virtual environment is something that you're going to create a virtualized place on your machine. It can be your Windows or it can be your Linux or it can be Mac OS, where all the dependencies are bind together for a respected environment itself. It won't come out of it, and you may install a number of dependencies, a number of versions by using this virtual environment. So that's a short introduction about virtual environment. Now it's time to activate it. So this is the command to activate it. So it's my env bin activate. And if you're using Windows, so you can take advantage of this. In our case, we are using Linux, which is a virtual Windows subsystem Linux. So for that, I'm copied it and pasted the command, which is supported by Linux. So here, source, and this is my virtual environment name and been activated. So if I press enter, it has activated. If you see this one, previously it was just a root shake, but now it's my env. Now I'm in that virtual environment, and whatever dependencies that I'm going to install on this virtual environment, it will be stick on this environment only. It won't affect on any my root level or root level of my Ubuntu. Fine. So we have successfully activated virtual environment. Now it's time to install Airflow. So it's saying that you can export it, which is a Airflow home directory, which is optional. So it's up to you whether you want to export it or you can ignore it. But it's good practices to export this directory on your virtual environment. And now it's time to install Airflow and its dependencies. The command is pip install Airflow hyphen Apache hyphen Airflow. And as I mentioned, Airflow was occupied by Apache. So um, you can paste over here, pip install Apache hyphen Airflow. So if I press enter, it will collect all the required dependencies and it will get installed on this respected virtual environment. So based on your internet speed, it will get install it and it will get um, pull all the dependencies. So it has successfully installed it. Now it's time to initialize the DB. For that, you can use the command called as airflow db init. So I'll copy this and I'll paste here. So now it's my database has been initialized successfully. It has been using SQLite Impel and all the basic information about the DB. Now it's time to create the user. Since you have successfully installed the Airflow, but you haven't created the user, it's mandatory to create the user. Otherwise, you cannot interact with the Airflow. So for that, you can take this command like create a admin user. You can copy it from here. You can copy it from here. So Airflow user create and username is admin. You can give any other name. It can be admin or it can be your own name. It can be your first name. It can be last name. So in my case, I'm just going to give as admin itself, and this is the admin example.com. So you can change it. For example.com, you can give your own domain name. It can be gmail.com or it can be anything. So up to your email ID, how it has designed and whichever domain provider you are taking. So I'll copy this entire command. I'll come to my WSL. I'll paste here. So now it is going to successfully initiate it, and it's saying that admin already exists. Because before creating this video, I just have practice the session to not jump into any error. So that's why it's saying already existed. But in your case, it is going to create another user with the username that we have provided here. Now successfully created the user. Now it's time to run the Airflow. So you can directly run it by going with the Airflow run, or uh, and you can perform the activity where you can jump into local host if you are running in local. In our case, we are running on local itself only. But we would like to run this command in the background. That's why it's mandatory to use the nahop. So we would like to run two. One is web server and the other one is scheduler. So that's why instead of splitting the screen, I'll run my web server in the background with the port 8080 and the scheduler at the background. So for that, I'm using the nohop. So I'm going to use the command and I copy this and I'll create the screen. I just press enter and I successfully initiate it. And I'll run this command also, nohop airflow. I'll run the both commands. So now it has successfully up and running with the airflow on the port of 8080. So I'll go to my browser. I'll just click here. I'll say localhost 8080. Now it has successfully jumping directly into the home page. But in your case, it will come like this, whatever username you have given while you create the user over here, you need to give the username. So in our case, I given a username as admin, and I'll give a password as admin, and I'll press and sign in. It will take me to the home page. You can ask me, hey, why did it directly open the home page? Because as I mentioned before recording this video, I just made a practice on self evaluation. That's why the cache has not been uh, cleared. So that's why directly jumping into the home page of without asking any username and password. But I'll use incognito, so I think it will won't ask any. Yeah, now it is asking username and password. I'll give it as a admin and admin. If I press enter, I'll successfully. Oh, what is this? Admin, admin. Now it's taking into my home page. Now I can see all the DAX which comes along with the airflow. So yeah, this is how you can jump into that. If you want to change the time zone, you can go with IST. Now I'm in the IST time zone, so you can shift into that IST time zone. It will show the timing, and you can explore these all features and all DAX, cluster activity, data security, browse and all. So this is how you can successfully initiate the web browser along with your scheduler. If you don't have a schedule, it is impossible to run your DAX on your machine. That's why I mentioned we need to run those all services in the background by taking help of NoOp. And this is how you can install Airflow into your backend. Airflow on your Windows machine by the help of Windows Subsystem Linux. And it's up to your requirement, if you're using any active directory, like adding the user, you can go with your customization in your organization or in your own laptop or desktop, wherever you're using. And it's up to you, wherever you're installing, so initializing the active directory. And quick heads up, guys, it's a similar way you can install into your any cloud service provider. It can be AWS, it can be your Azure, it can be Google Cloud, wherever you are renting the servers. So it's a similar way of initializing and doing the activity. But yeah, there are a bunch of ways, like you can creating it up to the clustering, and going with the different ways approaches. It's not only way that you are going to initialize the or install the airflow into WSL by interacting with the virtual environment. There are other way that you can go with Docker. You can initialize the via Docker itself. Also, you can run the entire airflow on Docker, and it's up to your customization and how flexibility you are on your environment wise, so you can initialize it. So that's why I'm telling it's not only the best practice. There are a bunch of practices available, but this is also one of the practice where you can keep your independent server for airflow. And because it's good practice to keep as an independent server for airflow, because it handles a huge amount of data and processes and all. That's why it's a good practice. And if you're using Kubernetes cluster, you can initialize, and you can create the Docker container instead of your pod, and you can expose it to your environment. So that's up to your requirement and up to your flexibility. So yeah, that's all for this lecture. I hope it is clear for everybody how to initialize and install Airflow on your Windows machine. And as I mentioned, this is a Ubuntu Windows subscription Linux that I have initialized. And if you are taking or if you're renting the servers on any other environment, the way is similar. You can copy and paste all this command, and I will add these all the commands into this video description. And that's all. I'm ending this video. I hope it is clear. If you like this video, please share and subscribe and like this channel. And thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Bye bye.